Finding a property's value is one of the most important aspects of any transaction, and it's vital that you get it right. If you're selling your home, you don't want to list too low and leave money on the table. Equally, you don't want to list too high and watch your property sit on the market for months. If you're buying a home, you want to know how much you can realistically expect to pay for the home, and you also want to know that the lender is going to be able to fund the deal when the appraisal comes back. My name is Phil Wells. I'm a real estate agent servicing clients in and around Spokane. In this video, we're going to explore the methods and strategies that you can utilize to determine your property's value. So let's get into it. The first and easiest way is to get a professional to do this for you. While I have no doubt you can probably work this out for yourself, you may wish to consider utilizing someone else's expertise. For example, I could probably change and bleed the brakes on my car by myself, but I choose to take it to a brake specialist for their expertise and the peace of mind that comes with their work. I will of course cover how you can value your home on your own later on in this video, but for now let's stick with professional valuations. So, who are the professionals to speak to? Of course, the first person to consider is a real estate agent. Whenever I look at a property that my client is considering selling or buying, I always perform what's known as a CMA, a comparative market analysis. Essentially, all this is me producing a list of comparable properties and highlighting their similarities and differences and how this might affect value. One might have a 2-car garage, whereas the subject might have a 1-car garage. One might have 3 bedrooms, whereas the subject might have 4 bedrooms. One might have a pool, the other might not. Really quickly, when I'm talking about the subject property, I'm talking about the property you're trying to value. I also highlight the numbers in my CMA. What did the property sell for? How long did they take to sell? And what percentage of list price did they sell for? Do the comps vary by size but have a very similar price per square foot, or do they vary dramatically, and what's driving that difference? If you're working with an agent to buy or sell, then they'll probably perform this task for you for free. If you are going to reach out to an agent purely for a CMA with no intention of buying or selling a property through them, then just make this clear at the outset, and you may even wish to consider offering to compensate them for their time. I personally do not offer this service, but there are agents out there that will do it. The next professional to consider is an appraiser. Appraisers are not cheap, but they are much more thorough than realtors, and they're the people that banks use to justify their lending decisions, so their opinion does carry weight. They actually have really in-depth formulas that they can use to attribute extra value to a subject property if, for example, it has an extra bedroom than a comparable property. Equally, they can take away value if, for example, the subject property has 1 less garage space than a comparable property. It would honestly be pretty unusual for you to hire an appraiser to perform a valuation without intending to, for example, obtain financing from a bank. However, you might be doing something like estate planning, in which case you're going to want the most thorough valuation possible, and this would be a good professional to use in that instance. Appraisals aren't cheap, so expect to pay around $1,000 for this service, and expect it to take a few weeks too. Now imagine you don't want to deal with any sort of professional, or you do wish to engage a realtor at some point in the future, but want to be sure they know what they're talking about when you do get around to selling. So how do you perform your own valuation, and what should you look for? Well, if you remember nothing else from this video, remember that real estate is hyper-local. You would not compare a sale from a really coveted neighborhood in Spokane, let's say the Rockwood neighborhood, to a much less desirable higher crime neighborhood just because they have the same style and number of bedrooms. In addition, you should also remember that a year is a very long time in real estate. You should never compare a sale from a couple of years ago when the market could have been radically different to a subject property now. So here are your 2 rules of thumb to take away from this. Did it sell within the last 6 months? Did it sell within a half-mile radius? If the comparable property you're looking at doesn't meet these rules, then you should have a really good reason for relying on this comp. And of course, there are good justifiable reasons for exceeding these rules of thumb, and we'll explore just a few of them now. If, for example, you have a very large property like a ranch, then you may wish to push that half-mile radius out a lot farther. Equally, if you have a very unique property, then you may be justified going back in time to find a similar property to yours, and then trying to figure out some sort of appreciation or depreciation based on the figures that are available to you. So how do you find these sold properties, you might ask? Well, you can go to your favorite home browsing website. My personal favorite for looking at this is Trulia. This will make it easy for you to look for homes that have sold nearby, and you will have to dig into those properties to find out the dates that they sold. So you've got a short list of about 10 homes that have sold near your subject property, and pretty recently too. What factors make a good comp, you might ask? Generally speaking, look for a similar style of home, a similar age, with the same number of beds and baths, the same level of fit and finish, the same sort of lot size, the same size garage, a similar neighborhood feel, similar curb appeal, and so on and so forth. You should also look at the hard data too. How long did a property sit on market? How much did it sell for? What percentage of list price did it sell for? Price per square foot is also a good metric too. As you can probably tell, this isn't an exact science, and there are a lot of factors that affect price. Therefore, it's important to take all the factors as a whole, rather than giving extra weight to certain aspects. If you solely look at the numbers, then you can easily misvalue a home by overlooking the fact that the home is in desperate need of repair and renovation. On the other hand, if you solely look at the material aspects of a home, for example, you get blown away by the newly remodeled kitchen and the porch swing, then you can end up with a miscalculation here too. The way I remain consistent when I'm producing CMAs is that I have software that does a lot of the analysis for me. In addition, I pay for access to a database with lots of detailed information on properties that this software draws from. I then narrow down the comps that the software brings forward, I select good comps, and I deselect obviously bad comps. For example, if I'm trying to find the value for a 1910 craftsman style home, then I'm probably going to exclude or place less weight on a newly constructed home from 2020, even if they both have 4 bedrooms and 3 baths. On the same note, if the subject property has incredible landscaping but is identical in every other way to a comparable property, then I'm probably going to attribute more value to the subject property, for example. The biggest thing to avoid when you're valuing a home is homeowner bias. Everyone thinks their home is better than a comp, particularly if the home is very sentimental to you, or you've done a lot of the upgrades yourself and you're really invested in them. Just be really mindful of this. Maybe consider asking a friend, if you're on the fence about which feature is more valuable, about what they think is more valuable to a buyer. This is honestly the reason that I recommend having a third-party professional like a realtor come in and look at your home's value. The last thing to consider when you're valuing your home is the buyer's ability to substitute your property. This means paying close attention to what's currently on the market and potentially adjusting your home valuation in real time. For example, if your comps are telling you that your home's worth $500,000, but a similar property with 1 extra bedroom pops up for $485,000, then you wouldn't want to value your property over that one because a potential buyer could easily substitute your property for an alternative. As you can tell, there's a lot that goes into valuing a home, and you're probably not going to arrive at one figure. You're probably going to arrive at a range. For example, I think it's worth $480,000 to $500,000. Ultimately, of course, a home is worth what someone's willing to pay for it. So even when you get a valuation, expect the market to tell you what the home's worth, not the other way around. That'll do it for this video. Like I said, my name is Phil Wells. If you need any help buying or selling here in Spokane, then please reach out to me, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, and I'd be honored to work with you. Until the next one, thanks for watching.